Absolutely. And happy Valentine's weekend to you all. It is now right at the top of the hour. I want to welcome you all to the AFDO's Valentine's celebration of food delivery during the worldwide pandemic. Thank you all for being here. My name is Tara, and my partner in crime is Tracy. And yay, Tracy! And this session is all about you. You should all get something from this. But even though we got our chat button going, hi from Chicago, hi from Oklahoma, whoop, whoop, Pittsburgh's in the house, Chicago's in the house, Texas is in the house. Let's make sure that your reactions work. In celebration of Valentine's Day, can you give me a heart? Or can you give me or a round of applause? Or make some noise on those emojis so I see that they're working. All right, George is in the house. Excellent. All right, so it looks like we have emojis working. It looks like that we have chat working. Hello from New York and happy Valentine's Day. Thank you, Phyllis. Awesome. Okay, so what can you expect today? Let's talk about our next slide. Go, Tracy.
One moment. Here we go.
Here we go. Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about introductions. We have from obviously AFDO, our wizard behind the curtain, our technology guru, Amy. So if you would all give Amy a big round of applause. Whoop, whoop, Amy! We would not be here today without Amy. We love you, Amy. Madison and Tamsin from Georgia. Let's give it up for them. Whoop, whoop. All right, Georgia's in the house to share some really great stuff with you today. And of course, all of you, it absolutely, positively is all about you. There's nothing worse than going to a training program and wishing you got the last 60 minutes of your life back. That is not going to be the case today because you're going to meet friends from all over the country. And I have to say, we have an action-packed day for all of you. So what are you going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about health, evolution, adaptation, resiliency, and tenacity. That's why we're here today. It's all about heart. All right, so going on to the next one, Tracy. Rules of engagement. So when we talk about rules of engagement, feel free to raise your hand. Feel free to stay on mute unless you'd like to speak. Again, it's just not a bunch of talking heads up here. We want to hear from you. We will definitely have some questions that we throw into chat that we're asking for all of you to give feedback on. So we really want that to happen as well. And of course, your emojis. And let's have some fun. Feel free to participate. Have a good time. Meet new friends. Okay, keep on keeping on. Now, we're going to do some polls. I know you're excited about doing some polls because we need to know who is out there today. All right, so let's take our first poll as our icebreaker. All right, here we are. What is your work experience level? Less than 3 years, 3 to 9 years, 10 to 20 years, more than 20 years. So please select the one that best represents you and hit the submit button. All right, submitting on the poll on your screen. And some of you are actually fantastic putting it in chat if you're not doing it on the screen. Wow, look at this experience. 10 years, 10 years, 20 years, less than 3, more than 20, 10, 20. Okay, so 3 more seconds. All right, way to go, Donna. 35, whoop, whoop. Amanda, less than 3, awesome. Ashley, Brad, 18, Garth, 3, Alex, 5, Alvin, 12. Okay, wonderful. Now with the poll, are we ready? Okay, for the ones that were able to take the poll, fantastic. And for the ones that couldn't, thank you for putting it in chat. And that is representation of 2020 and 2021. If plan A doesn't work, go right to plan B. It's okay, no worries. Okay, so right now, just so you know, oops, can you put that poll back? Fabulous. We have 13% that have less than 3 years of experience, 3 to 9 years of experience, 19%. But the majority of you have 10 to 20 years and then 20 plus years of experience. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. Thank you so much. Excellent. All right, let's go on the next poll. We have an experienced group. Fabulous. Hey, Tracy, next poll.
Oh, sorry. Oh, next poll or next slide?
Hold on, hold. Yeah. Keep going.
Nope, that's Amy.
Okay, there you go. Who are you? Are you a regulator, industry, academia, professional association, or top secret? Dun, 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 dun. Now, again, if you can't get into the poll, you don't see the poll, then please just put it in chat. Regulator, regulator, sanitarian, regulator, professional association, regulator, industry, regulator, participant, sanitarian, director of regulators, regulator, regulator, regulator. Okay, here we go. And can we have our results, please? Magically appear. Huh. All right, 61%. Whoop, whoop, regulator. Excellent. 90% industry, 9% academia. We have 4% professional association and 6% top secret. Shh. All right, we're going to close that poll out. Fabulous. Good job. And one more poll, and then we're going to continue on with our activities so we know who's here. Okay, where do you call home? Please put down where you call home. Northeast US, Southeast US, Southwest US, Midwest, US, West US, US Territories International. Where are you calling in from? Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, Midwest, Midwest, Southeast, Southeast, Southwest, Texas, 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 Southeast, California, Texas, Eastern California, woo, all over, Pennsylvania, Central North Manhattan, Kansas. All right, let's please close that poll and see where the majority of the folks are. Survey said, wow, look at this. We have a tie. We have a tie between the Southeast and the Midwest. Let's give it up for the Southeast and Midwest. Woo! Excellent. All right. What a great group of people. We have the United States of America absolutely represented here on this call today. Fabulous. Okay, go to the next slide, please. Take heart and move forward. It's now going to give me great pleasure to Madison Cahill and Tamsin Smith from the Georgia Department of Agriculture Emergency Response Team. Remember, the goal is to build resiliency in the community, and the Georgia Department of Agriculture has done a lot of work towards that. Would you all please give them a huge round of applause? Okay, take it away, ladies.
All right, so hi everybody. From the Georgia Department of Agriculture, my name is Tamsin Smith and my partner is Madison Cahill. And we are here to present to you the results of our mental health survey and some takeaways from it. So next slide, please. Thank you. So we use the heart structure that AFDO sent out to guide our presentation and guide like what we wanted you guys to take away from this. So the outline for our presentation will be health, keeping a pulse on the mental health of the population, evolution, evolving resources and tactics to meet people's mental health needs, adaptation, highlighting ways individuals can adapt, resiliency, promoting resiliency through providing resources and individual action, and finally, tenacity, using optimism to take heart and move forward no matter the challenge. Next slide. Thank you. So to start off for health, we did take the pulse of the mental health of our population. We did this through HOSP-GA, which is helping our service professionals community. And this was formed in April of 2020 in response to the shutdowns related to the COVID-19 pandemic, as we're all aware. The GDA joined this committee, and it is comprised of leads from agriculture, restaurant, and the hospitality industry, as well as public health and academic partners. And we focused this committee on the mental health of workers those industries. And it was based off of a culture of mental health in those industries and the high level of unemployment that affected those sectors. So the survey that we gave out was only one deliverable of the HOSP committee. And it was originally focused on the food, agriculture, and service workers specifically. And you can see in this slide a snapshot of our survey. This is the very beginning. And we were very careful to provide a warning statement at the beginning for people to protect themselves if they needed and resources. And we also included resources and places to go at the end of the survey in case the survey caused a strong emotional reaction from anybody. Next slide. Thank you. So we had 458 respondents from 30 states, which was wonderful. Thank you to our large partner network. And we had the biggest participation from Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio. Those are the states that are highlighted different colors. And we had enough that we could actually analyze the results from those states individually, which was really exciting. And we got a good sample overall to get a nationwide estimate on the mental health status of the people in these industries, we think. And we had a very successful first run, as you can see, and we're also hoping to expand the survey and get even more people to respond. Next slide. Thank you. So one of our survey questions, the very first, was for people to self-report their mental health. So we just asked people on a scale of 1 to 10 to say if mental health was a concern for them. And you can see that it was, and you can see that it also increased post-pandemic. And next slide, please. Yes, so we also asked them to kind of rate on a sliding scale their mental health. And we saw that, again, self-reported, their stress levels of the participants rose from 4.62 to 6.05 after the pandemic. So that is a definite increase. We also found, so there are some problems with, with self-reporting and those methods. When you ask somebody to self-report, they may not think that mental health is a concern for them, but throughout the survey, we were also asking other markers of mental health, and people were reporting high levels of that. In fact, more people were reporting that they were, feeling the stressors and, the markers of mental health, but not necessarily reporting that mental health was a concern for them. So some of the examples of that were reporting behaviors such as increased anxiety, anger, trouble relaxing or sleeping, fatigue, and other things. So definitely just keeping that in mind as we go through. Next slide.
Samson, I have a question.
Yes.
So can you go back one slide, Tracy? Thank you. So with those numerous examples about reported behaviors, is there one or two that really went to the top? Are you going to cover that in today's presentation? Are you going to say, okay, out of increased anxiety, anger, trouble relaxing, sleeping, fatigue, the number one answer is?
We did ask that, and I believe Madison will be reporting on.
Perfect. Yeah. Excellent. I look forward to hearing that.
Okay. All right, next slide. Okay, so moving on through our heart analogy, we have evolution. So we interpreted this as directing people to resources and also making sure that those resources are effective and will help these people. So the results that we were getting from our survey, as well as, being very familiar with the groups that we were targeting, really informed the messages that we were putting out and how we presented them. So you can see a few examples. The big coping with disaster column is from a bookmark that we had that the HOSP GA committee developed. And we also had this in a business card form. We thought that these would be very accessible for people so they could take them anywhere and really read them and use them. We also had our partners at the DPH strengthen the emotional support line. So we were really pushing that for people. And at the bottom, you can see a resource from the Giving Kitchen, which is one of our partners in Georgia, and it offers QPR training to people in the restaurant industry for free, which is a really great resource. Next slide. Thank you. So adaptation, preparing people to respond to things that are going on with them. So we have people, some tips for people to kind of like strengthen themselves. So some of the things that we recommend is keeping things in perspective, to be knowledgeable about resources. Again, resource sharing is a big part of what we're doing. Connecting with others that we know that, you know, even a Zoom call can really help if you haven't seen somebody's face for a little bit. Keeping yourself healthy. Madison will go over some ways to do that soon. To seek routine and use practical ways to relax. So, you know, what works for me doesn't work for you. So it's really good to find that and know like what will make you happy. And our resources also include a lot of things to help people recognize the signs of distress in themselves and others. So these are just a snapshot, but there's a bunch of different things. You can feel like these signs in like your physical body. You know, if you're feeling tired all the time, if you have a change in appetite, that could be a sign that your body is telling you that something is wrong, as well as like emotional things. So feeling shock or denial, feeling anger, not really knowing like where that anger is coming from, that could be a sign as well. And then just mental, if you're like forgetting things all the time, if this isn't usual for you, difficulty making decisions, all of these things can be signs. And again, these are like changes from, if you can compare like your state before the pandemic to after. So it's really like that change in behavior that makes a difference. Next slide. Oh, resiliency, perfect. So resiliency is the ability to withstand, recover, and grow in the face of stressors and changing demands. And this is something that we really focus on in the Georgia Department of Agriculture, especially in the Emergency Management Division. We have a history of mental health advocacy. Our current COVID-19 efforts come from the response to Hurricane Michael in 2018, actually. And the goal for those was to provide approachable, educational, and implementable mental health resources for farmers in a manner that would overcome known barriers to accessing those resources. So keeping in mind that our population and the population of, you know, everybody in the GA committee, so also putting the hospitality workers into that mix, the population is a risk group for mental health issues, and there are barriers in that community, in those communities, for accessing those resources.
All right, I'll be taking over from here. And so in order to promote resiliency, we really wanted to encourage workers within the food and the agriculture and hospitality industries to find ways to decrease their stress and to encourage them to seek help when they needed to. And so in order to help them decrease stress, we wanted to help them focus on tackling contributors and then increase awareness of what coping strategies exist and just help find and give opportunities for using the coping strategies. Next slide, please. And one of the unique contributors for the food industry, the food and service industry, is compassion fatigue. And compassion fatigue is a broadly defined subject that can include emotional, physical, and spiritual distress in those providing care to another. And those within the food and service industries, they care for people day in and day out, but like, when do they take care of themselves? And so we really want to promote the ABCs of self-care, the A standing for awareness and making sure that you're checking in with yourself. You need to check in with yourself every day, because how you're feeling day to day can change. And so you need to monitor yourself for if you're becoming easily frustrated, if you feel like you're working harder or accomplishing less, if you're getting bored or disgusted, or you feel like what you're going through is traumatic. Those are signs you need to keep in mind, because if you feel those, then you need to seek help, which kind of goes on to the next part of the ABC table, which is balance. Making sure that you are keeping balance in your life, practicing self-care, which is something we're gonna hit hard pretty soon, but taking those mini escapes, practicing balancing exercise, reaching out to those you love, making that network, and then naming 3 things you feel grateful for is definitely something that promotes optimism, which we'll touch on a little later. Just finding that balance for your soul. Those are so important, as are connections, making those connections, whether it be with your family, your friends, your your clergy, your supervisor. Making connections are important because it builds your network, and your network is your support system, because nobody can handle everything on their own, and you need your support system when you in moments of weakness. And so practicing those ABCs are just very critical. Next slide, please. And so when we looked at our survey, we wanted to make sure we were taking coping mechanisms into account and see what people were using. And so I do have the results from the GART 2020 stress assessment survey. And we do look at overall Michigan, Ohio, and Georgia. And you can see in purple, we have highlighted talk with family and friends and exercise. Those were our top 2 results, regardless of geography, when we looked across these areas. And I think it really speaks to the fact of you need your network, you need your support system. And exercise is a form of self-care. And, you know, just making sure you are taking time to do self-care is so important. Next slide, please. And so speaking of self-care, we wanted to increase the awareness and opportunities for self-care. And some ways to self-care are to eat healthy and exercise. And these were things that people were doing often and that we do want to try to promote within our communities. Engaging in proper sleep habits is also important because you can't function correctly if you don't get enough sleep. Getting that social support, scheduling meaningful activities, setting realistic goals, and expectations, which helps so much with optimism and resiliency. Focusing on getting balance. Set healthy personal and emotional boundaries, because sometimes you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people. And keeping in mind that your emotional boundaries, those are going to change over time. They might even change day to day. And just recognizing that that can occur and that it's okay when it does. Next slide, please. And so another thing we wanted to do, again, to help build resiliency is encouraging people to seek help. And we can do this by reducing the top barriers and to increase access to frequently used counseling resources. Next slide, please. And so just taking a look at, again, the results from the stress assessment survey that was done in September, we wanted to see what types of mentoring and coaching people were seeking out during the pandemic. As we can see, counseling is very high at 27, spiritual at 16, other at 15, business management at 6, and life planner at 3. And again, this is important because when people go out and make these kind of contacts, they're building not only their network, but their support system. They are becoming more resilient, getting stronger in those areas. But we really do want to increase the amount of people who go and seek out mentoring and what other help they need. And so to do that, we kind of need to look at our top barriers. And some of those are financial barriers, the stigma of mental health, which unfortunately mental health still does carry a bit of is a touchy subject for people. And time is always very important, especially because when you're in food working, you're working a lot of hours. And sometimes you work long hours and strange hours. And so having time to do that is important. And then knowing who to contact. So ways we can make sure to reduce those barriers is to increase education around mental health so people know what mental health is and why it's so important. And promoting mental health resources whenever possible, going back to that evolution slide. When we increase the promotion of resources, people know who to contact. And then just promoting self-care and creating an environment where it's okay to take time for yourself. Because again, you can't take care of everything you need to if you yourself are not taken care of. Next slide, please. And then the last thing we wanted to talk about is tenacity, just to end a bit on a high note. And so I tied tenacity and optimism together. And I hope this will make sense in a second, but tenacity is defined as the quality or fact of continuing to exist or persistence. And I really like this definition because it's going to tie in really well with optimism. And this was from the Oxford Languages. And so the definition we use for optimism here is focusing on things you have control of to make a situation better, or to accept when things can't be solved and instead focus your energy on other efforts that can be more productive. And so I think it's very important to realize here, optimism isn't rainbows and sunshine and unicorns and butterflies and everything's perfect. It's about focusing on what you can do now and letting go of what you can't control. And this helps you to build just a mindset that really promotes resiliency and persisting, because when you don't have an optimistic mindset, you can get bogged down and feel like you can't continue. But when you look at things optimistically and you tackle them with an optimistic mindset, you can go through so many hard times in your life where other people no longer can or feel like they can't. And just some examples of optimistic mindset are, how can you take action now? So you might not be able to do everything you want to do. Maybe you lack the resources or the manpower. Don't focus on that. Focus on what you can do. And just an example of that is the pandemic itself. We can't control the fact that there's a pandemic. Obviously, we would like to, but what can we do? We can wear masks and create safety measures. And that's something that I think we all have done very well within the past year. And another thing to do is focusing on the here and now, living in the here and now, and not letting outside factors contribute to that. One example I have is I'm a graduate student as well as working with the GDA. And so I don't focus on school things when I'm here, because if I did, I would just feel so bogged down that it would be overwhelming. And so I focus on small chunks of my life while I'm living them. So that way I don't feel overwhelmed and I can accomplish everything that I need to. Does anyone in the audience have a great example of optimistic mindset that they would like to share? Either through the chat or unmuting?
So I'll start. I have two things that I've been saying for the last few months. I am not just here to survive, I'm here to thrive. It's all about thriving. Let's thrive, not just survive. And then the other thing, because I own a small business, is this. Failure is not an option. So get rid of all that junk in your head and all those doubts. We are going to be just fine. Failure is not one of those options. Keep going. So, next. Oh my goodness, we have 400 people on this call. No one else? All right, there. Take lemons and make lemonade. Better yet, Zach, make a lemonade manufacturing plant. Go for it. Manufacture lemonade. Who else? What do you have? Going for a hike. Excellent. I will do that right now. Yes. If it's okay with everyone, Madison, do we have any more slides after this one?
We have our last thank you slide if you would like to go to that.
Actually, no, not yet. First of all, let's give Madison and Tamsin a huge round of applause. Fabulous, fabulous work. Great job. Excellent. Now I do adult learning, and this is what I've been doing since the 80s, crazy enough as it sounds, because I only look 20 something. I know, sorry. So we're going to take this from the beginning. And if you would back it up, Tracy, because I know people have questions out there. So let's back up the presentation, and we have some questions to fire out to everyone, because adult learners learn by things being repeated to them 21 times. So if we become annoying, we want you to get it. So, okay, back it up, back it up, back it up. I have some questions out here for the audience. The first question I want you guys to put in chat is, how many states have actually done, one more please, a survey on mental health? Okay, stop right there. Perfect. So here we have the states. Besides Georgia, how many states have gone and taken this extra step? So put that in chat or speak up. All right, Alaska. Kim, can you unmute and tell us about that? Florida. Excellent. Anne, would you like to unmute and share that with us? Oh, can't unmute, sorry. How about Anne from Florida? Would you like to tell us what you did? Okay. Any other states? How about industry folks? Has industry done anything out there? Okay, Eric in Iowa, do you want to share? All right, no problem. Well, good job. Alaska, Florida, Iowa, Georgia. Fantastic. Okay, Tracy, go to the next slide, please.
All right. You want me here? Get down. There we go.
Okay, so Madison and Tamsin, fabulous work here. So tell us from the mental health perspective, what time frame did this take place that you were comparing again?
So when we did the question for this survey, we wanted to do pre-pandemic. So we asked them just general, like, what was your, was mental health a concern and what was your stress level before the pandemic? And then this survey took place, I forget the exact dates, but it was 3 weeks within September. And so we asked for during the pandemic. So we asked, what was your stress level in the past 2 weeks? And was you, is mental health a concern for you, or was it a concern with you for the past 2 weeks?
Awesome. So that was in September. Say again?
Oh, I was just gonna say September to before March.
Okay, great. So are you planning on doing another one to see, because obviously when people were guessing about the pandemic, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, but now we're rounding a year. Where do you think that it would go at this point?
Yes, we are planning on doing like an expanded survey. So we'll probably use the survey tool that we developed. It went through a lot of drafts and revisions. So we'll probably use that as a base, and we definitely want to push it out to even more people and get a bigger sample. But yes, you're right. It would be very interesting to add like a question or two, considering the length of this pandemic and probably the fact that it is extended beyond anything that people have thought. And maybe hoping to see that things are going back down a little bit, like leveling off, maybe back to pre-pandemic levels, but we don't know. So it would be interesting to know that.
Excellent. That's a very good point. And Kim, thank you very much for putting that website link in there so we could see Alaska's survey. That's wonderful. And then Kansas surveys, all team calls, virtual fund committee activities. Fantastic. Well, ladies, we are definitely looking forward to your next survey and the results that you get from the next survey. And the great part is, with this wonderful community here at AFDO and these wonderful people on this call, I know you can count on more states to participate. And I know, because these people are amazing on this call, that you have some new friends that are going to support and help us get this survey out. That's for sure. Okay, stop there. Good. Wait, back it up. Back it up there, Tracy, wild woman, you. Back it up. Okay, I love the ABCs. Let's talk about the ABCs a little bit more. All right, so awareness, balance, and connections. So whether you're regulatory or industry or academia, is this compassion fatigue, is this new, or has this always been around? Can you educate us on compassion fatigue?
It's definitely something that's always been around. I'm not sure how frequently, I mean, it's always been around as a concept. Everybody's always experienced compassion fatigue. And I don't know when we've really started to focus on it. But like, especially during the pandemic, I think one of the greatest examples of compassion fatigue has unfortunately been our healthcare workers who've had to work frontline on this pandemic. And I see somebody said something about long-term caregivers. They've definitely experienced compassion fatigue for as long as can remember. And so, but just seeing that high rate of burnout and in these, unfortunately during the troubles of the pandemic, has been just really highlighting the importance of compassion fatigue and that we do need to take care of ourselves. And so it's unfortunate that it's really taken a pandemic to kind of highlight it. But now that we can hopefully spread it to everybody, because the ABCs are useful for each and every person within the United States, in my opinion, because I feel like everybody will have compassion fatigue at least once in their life, and some depending on their occupations more than others. And this is just a way to protect yourself from that.
And Madison and Tamsin, I'm so glad you're bringing this topic up, because the people that are out there in this program today, they're putting out their animal caretakers, anyone taking care of anyone else, educators, emergency management, first responders, and moms, for example. Like, so yes, this is something that it's okay for our community and our world to talk about. Let's talk about compassion fatigue. Let's talk about this. And it's okay to have a conversation about that, because a lot of times people are afraid that they're going to feel as though that somebody thinks that they're weak. But if you ask me, I'm taking care of a 94-year-old, a 91-year-old, and two 20-year-old men that have Asperger's and are autistic. So 4 people that my husband and I are primary caregivers for. So yes, compassion fatigue, absolutely. And it's different type, because inspectors that are communicating with establishments that are closed due to restrictions and trying to help them, or they have closed for good, being that person that is to listen, is the listener and the helper. Yes, there is a lot of heartbreak around this country with businesses going under. And you brought up in your presentation, ladies, about finances and money. And knowing that some of these businesses have been in their families for decades and generations, and then telling them, I'm sorry, you can't open your doors and you cannot make your livelihood. So many conversations that we've had with, I'm sorry, and just listening and being that person that listens with Main Street USA. So it's really, inspectors play a special role out there supporting industry during these tough times. And we know that you don't want to be on mask patrol. We know that you don't want to be out there and say social distance from an industry perspective. But then Tracy, I'm going to ask you to speak from an industry perspective, because you've had some really amazing stories from an industry perspective on getting through this entire pandemic. Can you share with the group, please?
Yeah. So we've heard all kinds of different stories from different companies. So I think to your point where just talking with some of the mom and pop places, going out, just even personally, individually going, to the local growler place where they're barely getting by, trying to make ends meet, or some of those smaller restaurants or different in businesses. But I'd say also, me and a lot of my colleagues in food service, food safety and food service, it kind of fell to us in the food safety or quality to help them, like the operators, deal with COVID. We had to watch CDC, work with CDC to figure out what should be our processes and our procedures. How are we going to put policies together? Just like regulatory, we became kind of the first responder to that type of thing. And with very small teams. So I've talked to people where there's only 1 or maybe 2 people on the quality team dealing with everything COVID. So working long hours and realizing that, hey, every time you make a decision about COVID, it's affecting somebody's life, somebody's livelihood. So very stressful, very exhausting. And yeah, I think everybody's kind of feeling the same thing, no matter what sector of the industry that they're in.
Absolutely. Thank you. Does anybody else want to share anything? And somebody had asked me to put that into chat. So again, we're talking about thriving and not just surviving, and failure is not an option. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And from this program, you all have the ABCs to take away with you: awareness, balance, connections. Awareness, balance, connections. If there's 3 words you can take away from today: awareness, balance, connections. That's what it's all about. And that's why we're here giving you hearts and making sure that we have the right Valentine's message this year for heart. All right, let's open it up for questions, comments. one comment, I really feel for the incident commanders who have had to work this emergency for such an extended time. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh, very important to realize when you need to step back to keep the balance. That can be a hard thing to do when you care so much. Absolutely. And
Mhm.
restaurants are a high turnover industry in general, but with the pandemic, the short-handed shifts, the burnout has seemed to be greatly increased. The phrase I hear when I ask, how are you? Just hanging in there. That's all I can do, is very much survival mode. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's a really good point.
And one thing I would add to that is people often, when someone asks you how you're feeling, your automatic is like, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm getting by. But that usually is the opportunity to be like, I'm not fine. I need to talk to somebody about what's happening and kind of help relieve some of that. So when people ask that question, don't automatically think you have to give a positive or an affirmative answer. You can actually, use them as a sounding board.
Good point, Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
And being an industry person, I have to tell you, we're programmed from corporate America to say, oh, everything's great. The walls could be falling down, the fryer could be on fire, we're pushing it through the back door, and we have 3 inches of sewage coming up through the floors. Yeah, we got it, no problem. That's how we're groomed. That's how we're
Yep.
taught. As soon as we get into everything's good, but it's okay to realize that everything is not good, and we need to do that. Okay, I've been in office since March 2020, was deemed essential and couldn't work from home. I'm tired of being in the office each day and having to help my team, but also give advice to all 94 of our local health departments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yep.
thank you for doing that. Thank you so much. And staff, everyone's having a difficult time adjusting to the lack of social connections. Absolutely. That's a really great point. And all these indicators and emotions we're feeling at this time is normal. It's okay to talk, reach out, ask for help. We all need to work together to check on those around us and provide support. All right. Well, Ronnie, we can do a part 2 on this. We'd like the entire team I work with to be on the webinar. Absolutely. We have heart here and we want to spread the message. And I think that is a really good thing, is to make sure that we keep spreading the word to talk about this. So Madison and Tamsin, some words of advice and encouragement for starting these conversations. Can you give us some information on that? Oh, I'm sorry. So Tamsin and Madison, go ahead, take it away. Give us some guidance on what you think our next steps are besides doing another program on heart. Will you ladies come back and join us?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So can you give us some advice as we're closing out the workshop today?
Do we want to talk about the app?
Oh, please. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, there's an app?
There's not yet, but we're planning on making one. And it kind of goes along with everything that we've said today. We want to make an app because same line with the business cards, everybody always has their phone on them. And so if we can make an app that people can access through their phones, we can give them tools right then and there, wherever they are, to do what they need to do to feel okay. So just, having all the resources in one place, having a place that can help give you ideas for coping. And that kind of goes through, resilience and optimism. It'll probably have the ABC table all there so people can see that and start their conversations and understand that it's okay. And Tamsin, am I missing anything?
Oh, that's good. I will say that it's really encouraging to see all of these people that are, first of all, like that you showed up and that you, that this is an important thing, and maybe like it doesn't matter like where you are on your mental health journey, but like regardless of that, like you took the first step. But it is also really encouraging to see people who, are, like once it can be maybe scary to start this, like maybe even to start like a step of self-care because you think it's like silly or frivolous, but really just going for it and, you know, hopefully seeing like the benefits that it has, and hopefully, you know, that'll like really kick off like your engagement in this kind of stuff. So again, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
I want to give a special shout out to Vanessa Sims for starting the conversation of self-care in the workplace, because that's never something I've considered before. And so understanding that it's okay to maybe take a small step back from work to get yourself ready is honestly one of the best forms of leadership that I've ever seen. So
Absolutely. Agreed. Let's give her a round of applause. Whoop, whoop. Here we go. Round of applause, everyone. Excellent. 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 So, Tracy, just in case everyone wants to reach out to Madison and Tamsin, so can we have their contact information on the last slide? And I just want to point out that in the chat, there's some really good feedback in chat about taking time to reflect, taking time to rest, and making sure that you can reprioritize. Very good things. And I know that we're all doing different things differently. For example, I've taken up adult coloring. So I sit and I relax and I do I call it Zen coloring. And I asked Santa Claus for an automatic crayon sharpener. I got one. Yay! The little things in life. All right. Any more questions for Tamsin and Madison? At this point, I'm going to open it up for any questions at all on this topic. We have about 10 minutes left. So we have some really great links in chat. And I'm so glad that we could have a candid discussion on this topic. It's time we talk about it. If not, we're going to give you back the last 10 minutes of this hour. And thank you all very much. Wish you all a very happy Valentine's. Hope that you all have heart. And thank you, especially AFDO for allowing the opportunity for us to talk about this. And one other thing is they're requesting, how can they get a hold of the presentation? That will be on AFDO's website, correct? Now, oh my goodness, food delivery, pandemic, the last 10 minutes. How can we apply heart to food delivery and what's happening here? Because we know industry is struggling with now all these paper products where they had a storage room that only fit this, and now their dining rooms are turning into storage rooms. So is there any information or any best practices or lessons learned that we could provide on this subject as it relates to delivery in the worldwide pandemic? Or are we all just exhausted and we'll talk about that next time? Any best practices? And don't say any names if somebody did do a bad practice out there to protect the guilty. Anything that we learned from delivery and the pandemic as we wrap up this session? Keep it anonymous. Okay, so I've been training for like 100 years, even though I'm only 20 something. But yes, be delivery with the patient, with the delivery personnel. Very good. Thank you very much. And here's the bottom line. You all enjoy the rest of your hour, and we'll come back to you, Tracy and I, my partner in crime, and we will absolutely positively bring you more on delivery, on healthy behaviors, and being able to talk about mental health. It's okay. All right, last call for questions. Thank you all. Have a wonderful Valentine's and enjoy the rest of your hour. Bye. Thank you, Tamsin. Thank you, Madison.
Thanks for joining us.
Toodles. We'll see you soon next month.